Oh my god, I'm actually looking clapped today. Oh my god, what is my mug doing?
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I've got a new camera and I really don't know how to act anymore. I keep on looking at the screen that way when I'm supposed to be looking that way. It's all a bit of a mazza. I don't know why I'm starting my video this way. You know what, let's just get straight to the point. Welcome to my first video that I'll be doing in this assessment centre series. So what is the assessment centre series, I hear you ask? The clue is in the name. You've done your application, you've done your online tests, your online virtual videos, and now it's time for you to do the assessment centre. This video will be useful to you whether you're doing your assessment centre virtually or in person. So in the assessment centre series, I'll be providing a range of different videos based on individual tasks that you can get in an assessment centre, be it the group task, the case study interview, the negotiation exercise, etc. And today we're going to be focusing on the group task. So what is the group task? Well, usually you're in a group of around 3 to 6 people and you'll be discussing the task that the firm has provided to you. You'll be discussing a certain question. This will usually be under a strict time limit. There are different objectives that you can get in a group task. Mainly firms look for how well you work in a team, and sometimes they look for the outcome that's been achieved at the end as well. I've even had a group task once where we weren't even allowed to speak, and that was a really weird one, and I'll give you more details about that later on in the video. Now, I swear to God, when it comes to the group tasks, I know some of you can relate to me on this, but the fakest Simranjeet Kaur man comes out and it ultimately, it cringes me out. I'm quite rude as it is, but in the group task, I become this eloquent professional girl, really kind of the nicest person ever. I mean, I like to think I'm quite nice, but this is overly nice in the group task, really saying things like, great work team, oh, we're doing so well, etc. And it literally just makes me want to cringe out. It's not the one. But inevitably, the group task is one of the most common elements you get at an assessment centre. I think it's really good in judging how you work as a team. In terms of common advice you'll hear from group tasks, you don't want to be that person who's dominating the conversation, but you also don't want to be that person who's quiet and doesn't contribute anything at all. To excel in the group task, I recommend a 3-stage process that really helped me when I was doing my group task as well. Firstly, become an active listener. Secondly, become a creative contributor. And thirdly, provide structure to the conversation. So let's talk about that first stage, how to become an active listener. So to become an active listener, firstly, know the names of the people in your group and use their names accordingly. For example, that makes sense, Simran. What do you think, Ravinder? You can then use those names to invite those who have been more quiet in the group to contribute to the conversation. For example, what do you think about this, Hafsa? Or would you agree with this point too, Bruce? Another thing you can do to show that you're an active listener is listen to other people's points, obviously, but then use them later on. For example, you can say something like, following on from Taryn's point earlier about XYZ, I also think ABC. Saying words of encouragement also shows that you're an active listener and you have an awareness of what's going on in the group. So saying things like, excellent point, Thomas. Body language is also important here too, particularly as virtual assessment centres have been happening in this pandemic. So make sure you're nodding your head, you're looking engaging on the screen, you're not looking around the screen, you're not looking at your watch. Trust me, I've been to a lot of virtual networking sessions lately because of the pandemic, and it's really easy from the presenter's side to see who's bored in the group and who isn't. The next stage is to become a creative contributor. And this is where I think your preparation and research can really come into play and make you shine in this group task. Research the firm's objectives and values and incorporate them into your argument. You can also research things like their pro bono initiatives, the importance they place on diversity and inclusion, any recent deals they've been involved in, etc. Another way you can be a creative contributor is to incorporate commercial awareness into your points. You shouldn't only wait until the interview or until you're asked a question of tell us a recent news story to display your commercial awareness. If you've read up on a certain article that relates to the group task at hand, incorporate that in your answer. You can say something like, I read something in the Financial Times the other day that was similar to this, it stated this, this and this. Just make sure it's relevant to the task at hand and you're not going off on a tangent. Another way you can be a creative contributor is to think outside of the box. And what I mean by that is not only thinking about the legal perspective, but the commercial side, any social implications of what you're deciding, any political implications of what you're deciding, any links to maybe legal tech, for example, as well. All of that, as long as it's relevant to the task at hand, will really help you out and show that you are contributing creatively. Let's apply this to an example. A common group task question is, if you had the choice to build a new office for our firm at anywhere in the world, where would you pick and why? And then you're given a map, and the whole point is to discuss where the best place would be. In respect of that first point I made about knowing the firm's values and objectives, let's say from your research you had a look at the annual report for that firm where they mentioned their plans for expansion, and in that annual report they stated that they want to do more national expansion rather than international. So therefore you're able to bring that research into your group task, and you're able to say, well, I read in the annual report that the firm actually wanted to go towards a more national strength rather than an international strength, so why not build an office in Manchester, for example? Straight away, you are showing the assessors that you have done your research into the firm. Your commercial awareness comes into play too when you're looking at this question of where should we build our new office. For example, certain countries are facing certain political difficulties. The US election, for example, is going on at the moment, so would you decide to build a new office in this current climate right now or not? Now let's move on to the final stage that I stated about being successful at group tasks, and that's providing structure to the conversation at hand. To maintain structure, you can offer to be the timekeeper. This is important as group tasks are nearly always under timed conditions. However, your only contribution to the group shouldn't be 5 minutes left, guys. You should also be contributing to the conversation in other ways, and as I've mentioned before, being that creative contributor. Another way in which you can provide structure to a group task is if you feel like the conversation is going off on a tangent, it's up to you to bring that conversation back to the task at hand and saying something like, oh guys, is this relevant to the task or is this relevant to the question? This shows to the assessors that you possess leadership skills, but also you don't faff about, you go straight to the point. Now that I've talked about the 3 stages of being successful in a group task at an assessment centre, I would like to talk to you about some really unorthodox group exercises that I've done with law firms in the past. So remember when I said that I had a group task where I wasn't even allowed to speak? Essentially, we were all given a set of rules, so a line of piece of paper relating to how we should build this Lego structure in front of us. But essentially, we weren't allowed to speak while we were building. And this is where body language became so important. A few of us as the timekeeper were pointing to our watches. Oh, I don't have one, but pointing to our watches like, look at the time, 5 minutes left. We all kind of like developed a kind of hand language that over time we understood. I actually did really badly in this task. I don't know whether you guys can tell, but I love talking. Having that vocal element taken away from me, it actually like did not go in my favor in any way. Regardless, even after that group task, I still managed to get the training contract offer in the end with that firm because they saw my strengths in other areas that I performed in as well. So just because the group task may not go well for you, the firm may place importance on other areas. You may have shown in other areas, which means that you may get through to the next stage. Another unorthodox group task that I've had was pretending that we were in a kind of escape room situation. We were given sheets of paper which had loads of riddles and codes and sequences, etc. And at the end of every riddle or sequence, it would reveal a certain number, which would go towards that end code, which would then let us out of the room. The main thing I want to say by mentioning this really unorthodox group task is we didn't actually escape the room, so technically we failed the task. However, some of us were still able to get through to that next stage because of how we performed in the team. In terms of how I managed to become successful after this group task was being quite light-hearted in the conversation. I felt like I was actually my natural self. I was providing positive support to other teammates, and also if another teammate had perhaps provided a number or a code, I'd be like, oh my god, well done, that's amazing. I know it's a competition with all the other candidates, but that doesn't mean that you can't be nice to them when they do something right. And also I provided my own lateral thinking and contributing towards providing my own codes too. If this video helped with your future group task, please be sure to share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. I'm hoping to get around 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so please help me gain that, please. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the first video in this assessment center series, and see you guys in the next video.